never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditties. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. That's right. Miss Liz is back in the house. And tonight I have Tara Hodgson in the house. And we're going to share about kids, adolescents, and social media, and her new book called Chasing the Time. And we're going to dip into that a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about her favorite colors, all that good stuff. So if you haven't subscribed to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, run on over, check that out. It's Miss Liz's Teatimes with an S, and you can find over 400 different interviews in there, 67 different countries, and 175 plus topics on there. So there is one tea time I guarantee that will resonate with you. So before we get started, we're going to do the disclaimer, and then we're going to get Tara in here, but we're going to give a little bit of information on her as well, and then we're going to have some tea. And when I say tea, we're not talking the beverage, we're talking making a difference through teaching educational awareness, transcend, embrace, and envision. So tonight's disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live shows. Miss Liz, myself, is going live using StreamYard. Please before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness and healing and connection. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith and health. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or discussions that may relate to the discussion. Some episodes may include sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me directly through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Times. By choosing to participate in comments on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and will welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup of tea at a time. Now, a little bit about my guest. Before we get her in, I'm going to give you a little introduction, and then we're going to spill some tea together. Tonight on Tea Time with Miss Liz, I am delighted to welcome Tara Hodgson. Tara is a passionate advocate for youth empowerment and healthy development in today's fast-paced digital world. She brings a deep understanding of the unique challenges that teenagers face while growing up in an always connected society. Through her work, Tara blends research, personal experience, and real-life world insight to guide families, educators, and young people through the pressures of social media, identity, and modern adolescence. She is committed to fostering resilience, self-worth, and a healthy balance between online and offline life. Tara's passionate, no-nonsense approach creates safe spaces for young people to feel seen, heard, and understood. Whether she's speaking on stage, leading workshops, or mentoring one-on-one, her mission remains the same: to equip the next generation with the tools they need to thrive no matter what challenges come their way. So please join me in welcoming Tara Hodgson to the table, and we're going to spill some tea together.
Hello.
Welcome, Tara. Is it
Hi.
Tara or Tara?
Tara.
Tara.
Yeah. People
As
always ask. Yeah.
As I was saying it, I was like, Tara.
Yeah. No, it's Tara. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the house tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit of, share with the audience a little bit what I haven't shared in the introduction.
Yeah, so I guess my day job right now is a teacher. So I'm a junior high teacher and I spend most of my time with teenagers. And that was kind of what fueled my drive to start my second job, which is now a YA author. I saw things that were happening, especially regarding social media and tech use, and I felt like I needed an outlet to share that with the world. And so Chasing Through Time was born.
So tell us a little bit about chasing the time.
So Chasing Through Time, it's a YA novel, but it's actually become a YA adult crossover. Adults have really resonated with it. It's about two girls. One girl is Sarah. She was growing up in 2001, and she goes to a high school in a small town, similar to where I grew up. And then Emma lives in 2022, and she is going to school in the same town at the same school as Sarah. So they experience very similar challenges. There are universal struggles that teenage girls go through that kind of transcend time. They are going through these experiences that are very similar, regardless of being 20 years apart. However, we see that Emma's experiences are a lot more complex with the added challenge of social media and how that affects her mental health. And their paths magically cross and they become friends and they become a sounding board for each other and help each other work through their challenges.
So you mentioned 2001 for Sarah and 2022 for Emma. So there's like a 20-year gap, right? So is one like a mentor or a coach?
No, they're actually living lives in their timeline. So there's a little bit of a sci-fi twist to the novel. So they actually connect over MSN Messenger, which if you think way back, I think that was one of the first platforms that people were actually able to chat online. So they form this friendship. So Sarah's living in 2001 and Emma in 2022, and they basically learn about each other's time periods and learn about each other's experiences and see how different things have become in that 20-year period.
So Tara, you mentioned that it's in the neighborhood of where you live. So the school that you went to, so is that the personal touch?
Well, it's a fictional town, but it just kind of is based on a similar vibe that what I grew up in. So I grew up in a rural area outside of a really small town. My high school is in like the middle of a field. So yeah, there are some dabbles of my experiences in there for sure.
Yeah, growing up in a small rural area, how did that affect writing this story for you?
I still live in the same area, actually. I just moved 10 minutes down the highway. So I'm still here and now I'm a teacher in this community. I feel like, people expect it to be, we're more closed off and more kind of cut off from these challenges, but we see the exact same challenges that kids are experiencing in more urban areas for sure.
So you talk about the teachers in rural areas. How has the teaching changed for the teachers, like the credentials and stuff like that?
Well, nothing changed for credentials, I would say, but I think even in my experience, so I've been teaching junior high, I'm going into year 17, and things have changed dramatically, just in what it is like to be a teacher for junior high kids. And I attribute a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of it to this inclusion of tech and how kids' lives have moved away from, a play-based childhood, an outside childhood, an adventurous childhood to a screen-based childhood, and how that's affected their mental health and how those mental health issues, those tech issues trickle into the classroom and has made it much more challenging as a teacher for sure.
So we have a couple questions here, Tara, that I want to get out to you. So we often hear about the negative of social media, but what are some of the surprising positives you've seen in how teens use it today?
Honestly, I definitely see more negatives. However, in my novel, I do show the positives as well, and the fact that the way that Emma and Sarah connect is still through technology. And they're both struggling so much and isolated so much, but they're able to find some solace in each other. So I think there is a small bit of connection as long as it's balanced with like face to face connection as well. And I think what happened, especially after COVID, was that people refocused too much on the on screen connection. That became the priority and that became the focus. And we lost sight of the importance of that one on one, face to face communication and connection. And a lot of kids are still stuck in that screen world and not back in the real world yet.
We have a question that just came in. How has
Yeah.
teaching changed since COVID?
Yeah, I think just that the screens, we were all pushing screens. There was no other option. And teenagers, I think, have a natural tendency, a lot of them, to isolate when things are hard. So I think during COVID, they were isolating more and more and more and more and more. So there wasn't the balance between the screen based connection and face to face connection. And for a lot of kids, that led to mental health issues for sure, because we all need, as human beings, we need to socialize face to face. We need to go outside. We need to be around people. And kids now are a lot more anxious than they were before. Social interactions are a little bit harder. They didn't have that, those few years, those really important developmental years of learning those social cues and how to deal in social situations. And that has definitely affected their mental health.
So let's talk about the mental health in the
Mhm.
youths, because we don't talk about mental health in youths, right? We talk about the adults and mental health. We talk about, you know, we're starting to talk about children with mental health, but let's talk about it as a teacher's point and from a teacher's point. How
Yeah.
do you feel mental health is being taught to the children and the youths?
I think it needs to be taught much more. I know, like our health curriculum in Alberta, I can't speak for Ontario. It's touched on, but I mean, we think of how much time is actually put into our health education. It's probably an hour a week that kids are getting. And that always gets pushed to the side for other things, I feel like. And kids are just in my 17 years, if I think back to my first few years, you'd always see kids with, anxiety and depression, but it was always the minority. And I feel like it's almost shifting to the point now that it's the majority who are struggling with those issues. So I think just it needs to be more of our priority for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we don't talk about, and I share that a lot when I speak as well. Like, we get all these diagnoses of mental illnesses and stuff like that, but do we actually understand those diagnoses?
Mhm.
Are we actually educating ourselves on these diagnoses, the side effects, and what to look for, the red flags and stuff like that? Uh, do any of the teachers get any training for any of those?
Some do, but again, I think it's pretty minimal. Like we have counselors in the schools, but time has diminished over the last few years, I would say. Whereas, some used to have like a full-time counselor. Now we might have like a point two or point three counselor. So I feel like the classroom teacher starts to take on that role. And as a classroom teacher, am I traditionally trained or professionally trained in any way to deal with mental health issues? No, I'm just working on what I have seen and, for myself, like strategies that I use if I'm struggling, but I am not qualified to be, that sounding board for kids. Whereas we could have professionals working with them for sure.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because a lot of people are like, asking, like, are the teachers trained? Are the teachers trained? Like,
Mhm.
there's only so much a teacher can do. There's only so
Yeah.
much a parent can do, right? There's only so much a doctor can do, but we all have to work as a community. We all have to come together and
Mhm.
start to understand, instead of just saying, I have mental health, I have mental illness. Let's start to understand why we have it,
Mhm.
right? Eh,
And I think we have to go back to the basics. And I think what's happening with the social media piece is, when I've sat with kids who have struggled. I know during COVID, I would sit online with kids, and I had one particular kid who was really struggling. And I said, have you eaten yet today? No. Have you gone outside? No. Have you moved your body? No. Have you seen anybody face to face? No. Those four things, simple, effective, they could change that person's day immediately. But with COVID, kids were like isolated so much, then they draw away even more, and they're not doing those basic things that are so beneficial to everybody.
Yeah. And like you said, four simple things, right?
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we have some more questions that came in that I want to get out to you, but I want to go back to the book, Chasing Through
Yes.
Time. When I heard the title, I was like, "Oh, is this a time traveling book?"
Yeah.
So like I had to like because I'm big on time traveler, right? Because the T is the past, the present, and the future. We all have a
Mhm.
T within us, right? So when I heard the title, when Mickey sent it to me, I was like, "Oh, is this going to be like a time travel book?" So I really had to really look into it, and it's kind of like a story of two different perspectives of two different girls in a different time
Mhm.
area.
Yes. So while they don't physically travel through time, they do connect through time. So it's a little bit of a spin on the time travel story. But that was the best way I could think of to really juxtapose the two time periods, because 20 years really is not that long. But the way that things have changed for teenagers, I would say, has shifted drastically in that 20 years. So that was my way of having them kind of live parallel to each other. And you could go back and forth and see, yes, there's so many similarities, but what makes the 2022 time period so much more difficult? That is the technology. That is the access to the phone in the back pocket and all of the things that come along with that.
So could you tell us a little bit about the cover of the book and how
Yeah.
you came for the cover and the colors and all of that? Because you know me, I'm big on colors.
Yes. So I wanted that dark blue because it is like a very it's a dark book, because it really is focusing on some sensitive subjects and sensitive issues. So I wanted that darkness. However, blue is also like a hopeful color. It's not, black or gray. Like I wanted there still to be some color in there. And then there's snow, like the sand going through the hourglass. It looks more like snow, and the
Oh,
reason
I
for
never
that is
noticed
because
that.
yeah, most of the story takes place in winter. And honestly, that was because I was writing it in the middle of an Alberta winter. So it was dark and dreary and snowy outside. And that's actually how their paths cross, is this crazy snowstorm. It's kind of brings their connection together. Their wires cross through their computers. So I wanted that snow to go through the hourglass, and the hourglass obviously signifying the time and how they're separated. And what basically, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but
Yeah, no, no
yeah,
spoilers
no.
alert.
Emma
Gotta
in
go grab a
20,
book.
no, Emma in 2022, we see her situation really decline, and she's struggling. And Sarah is kind of trapped in 2001, her only friend, and she has to figure out how to help her and how to save her friend, who's 20 years in the future. So that through time, how do I get to her?
So it sounds like an interesting book. So people need to go
Mhm.
and grab a copy and all
Yes.
that stuff. I did see that you're working on a second book that's coming out
Mhm.
in October. Do you want to talk a little bit about that book?
Yeah. So it's called At Least I'm Trying, and it takes place in the same small town. Um, and it follows a different girl. It's all in current time, and it still sticks with the theme of the tech, but in a very different way. So Chasing Through Time really follows, like, I would say, very realistic, relatable situations that kids I have seen, tons of kids I have seen going through with the mental health, all the little things that are happening behind the screen, the cyberbullying that follows them home, the maybe inappropriate content that's being shared. That's all really touched on Chasing Through Time. At Least I'm Trying, I wanted to focus specifically on Snapchat, and it was kind of based on news stories that I had come across, where Snapchat is being used for kids to connect with strangers. And you know, what is the danger, like an extreme danger that could happen? So not necessarily something that's happening all the time, like Chasing Through Time. I would say that's definitely a very common issue, but At Least I'm Trying really focuses on the potential implications of tech and what could happen to kids.
Yeah, Snapchat, I was on it for a while and it kind of creeped me out as an
Yeah.
adult. So,
Yeah. I'm not on it, but I have a group of teenage girls who help me bring my characters to life, and they help me with the lingo and the tech. And kind of walk me through it as an elder millennial who does not understand. So they
Well, it
really
took me like
helped me
6 months to
understand.
understand. It took me like 6 months to understand the TBH. Like all
Yeah.
the kids were putting
Okay.
that on Facebook for the longest time.
Yeah.
TBH. That's all they were putting, and I
Hmm.
was like, "What
What?
the
Yeah.
heck is that?"
Yeah.
And
You
I'm
see
trying to
some of that
understand the
lingo. Yeah.
words, and then my son said, "Mom, honest," and I said, "Well, what are you lying about? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what
You'll
do we
see
need
that
to be
lingo
paying
come up
attention
for
to,
sure.
right?"
Yeah. All the little acronyms, they come up throughout both books. And yeah, they helped me with that.
Well, that's cool. So
Mhm.
some of your students helped you write this book.
Yeah, well, they were I call them my beta readers. So my Chasing Through Time, I actually just had one girl, and she is my harshest, most incredible critic. She took the whole manuscript home over the summer and wrote all over it, color coded notes, and like, no kid would wear that. They're not saying that. Like, she helped me so much. She brought Emma. So Emma's character in 2022, she brought her to life. So I recruited her again and a couple of other girls. They helped me with At Least I'm Trying. And yeah, I got these stack of manuscripts backed with all their notes, and their input was invaluable.
So how did you get the title for that book and the cover?
Honestly, it is inspired by a Taylor Swift song.
Oh,
She has a song called This Is Me Trying, and it's all about you try and you try and you try and you try, and sometimes it's just not enough. And the last line of the song sings, it's just beautiful. She says, "At least I'm trying." Like, it might not be working, but at least I'm trying. And Reese, the main character, and At Least I'm Trying, she is your stereotypical perfectionist. She is top student, top athlete. She's 17, like, has all this pressure on her shoulders. And she's trying. And it gets to the point where it's just not enough. And she's experiencing failures she's never experienced before. And that's kind of when she decides to give up. It's too much. And she takes a different route. And that's what leads her down a more dangerous path through connections on Snapchat.
well, when does that book come out? So for anybody that's interested.
October 15th.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice date.
So while Chasing Through Time is definitely, I would call it more of a YA book, older YA. Although adults have really, I found, picked up on it too. You have Sarah in 2001, so it's a little bit nostalgic, and parents have really enjoyed it. At Least I'm Trying is definitely more new adult, so I would gear more like that 17 up.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that's a good date. I like that date.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good. I hope it's a good date too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get into a few more questions that have come in.
Okay.
Plus, I want to get into some of the questions that I've asked you to send along to me. So I want to get into the colors, because we talked about colors on the book. And At Least I'm Trying has that purple color in, and your favorite color is purple. So
It
do you want to
is, yeah.
share a little bit why purple?
So actually the flowers on the cover come up at some point in the book.
Okay.
But yeah, purple was my favorite color, and I wanted a darker color again, but I also didn't want it to be too dark, because both books have, while they do deal with very dark and sensitive subject matter, both end in really hopeful notes. I don't like to wrap everything up pretty and perfectly in a bow, because I don't feel that's true to life. But I always want to leave with a sense of hope that, even though things feel terrible or it feels like things won't get better, they do at some point get better. So that purple, I wanted that deeper color that's beautiful, but also like darker and sadder. That was my goal.
Yeah. I like the color. I'm not a purple person.
Oh.
I am wearing purple because it is your favorite color.
Oh,
But
thank you.
my sister got married in purple, and I was like, sis, any other color. Come on, I have to wear that purple. But it was like amethyst purple. So it was like almost like a black purple.
Yeah.
So it was
Oh,
really
that's
dark,
nice.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
I got a catch of your book on your Facebook page, and I was just like, oh, I like that purple. That's not a bad purple. It's not too dark. It's not too light. It's just it's
just
kind of
right.
calming, right? It's nice. So the flowers on the cover of At Least I'm Trying, where did those flowers come in?
Again, I don't want to give too much away. But Reese meets a boy from Snapchat.
Okay.
And it starts off, everything's really wonderful. And he sends her this massive bouquet of flowers. and she's never received anything like that before. And that was kind of what really helped make her fall for him. So,
So the flowers have a story. So you got to get the
yes,
book on October 15th.
yes, the flowers are in there.
It all flows nice together,
Yes.
right? So, Tara, I asked you to describe yourself in one word, and you gave me the word grounded. Why is that
Yes.
word grounded?
I just feel like I'm very settled and content. I know what I talk a lot about mental health, and I'm trying to really explore mental health. And when I do talk to kids about mental health, I talk about it being like, there's ups and there's downs, but honestly, most of life is here. It's not very exciting. It's also not devastating. It's just routine. Meh. I think I'm grounded because I'm very content in the routine. I am happy and content in just that steady state of being. I don't
Yeah.
have my heads too far in the clouds. I don't know. I'm a pretty content, settled person, I think.
I like that you went like this because that's what mental health is. It is a roller
It is.
coaster.
Yeah, it's up and down, and it's meh. It's just meh.
Yeah. Well, that's just like the start of the roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the action comes in, the
Yeah.
adventure comes in.
And honestly, I don't like it when it's up here or down here. It's too much. I'd rather be here.
Just a steady pace, right?
Yes.
So your T that you gave me was teachers of teenagers, immersed in learning and always paying attention. So let's talk a little bit about that T
Yes.
and that.
So yeah, I'm a teacher of teenagers. Literally, I go back to work in 2 weeks and prepare my classroom for another year of grade 9. I have been in grade 9 myself for several years. I feel like I don't know if I'll ever leave that grade. I like being with the older teenagers. They are like, everybody thinks I'm crazy when I usually tell people, they're like, why would you do that to yourself? But they're honestly so fun. And I have made such incredible connections with these kids. They're starting to really figure themselves out, and they get my sarcastic humor, and their personalities are so interesting. The conversations that I can have with them, maybe because I'm not their parent, but just the conversations we have and the information that they share with me. It's my favorite part of my job is the connections I make with those kids.
So you're stuck in grade 9.
Yeah, I'm stuck in grade 9. I said I'd maybe go to grade 10, 11, 12, but my kids are still little. So I've got grade 9 pretty locked in. I'm not ready to change curriculums yet.
Well, I like it, because that's a fun year, right? Because they're
It is.
graduating from elementary school and going into
Yeah.
junior high. Like it's
They're
a big.
growing up, like they're starting to figure it out. Like grade 8 and grade 7, they're still no, not for me.
They're not there yet.
No. Even the beginning of grade 9, I'm like, oh, we got work to do. But they start to figure it out, and yeah, they're great.
So what subjects do you like teaching in school?
Well, shocker, I'm a language arts teacher primarily, so reading and writing is my passion. So that's been kind of cool, being, starting my writing journey. And I have so much support from so many of those kids. They're out buying my books and bringing them to school for me to sign them, and reading them during silent reading. So that's been really fun. But yeah, language arts, I love to read books and write with them.
So you gave me immerse in learning. So you love learning, right?
I do. I love learning about, this is ironic as being a teacher. I love learning, like as an adult now. Sorry. Oh, am I gone? Am I here?
Yep, you're back.
Okay.
I lost you for like 10 seconds.
Ironic as a teacher, but I find learning as an adult better because you can learn about all the things you want to learn. You're not being told to learn anything, like I became a yoga instructor, in my late 20s because I just wanted to learn more about it and, experience that. I love to, now I'm learning to love politics and learning to love all of those, like just figuring out what's going on in the world, and just reading what you want and experiencing and new things. That's what I like to do. Yeah.
So in your last part of your T is always paying attention. So what are you paying attention to?
Honestly, right now, I'm really paying attention to what's happening with tech. I think it's becoming such a much more talked about topic. I've been following a lot of Jonathan Hyde. He is an author from the States who wrote a book called The Anxious Generation, and he did a pile of research over the last 10 years that's really focusing on tech and how it's affected kids this past decade. So I'm just constantly watching the news and listening, and it's really fueling ideas for me for more books as I continue this journey. And just what's going on with tech in the world right now, and how is it affecting not just kids, because kids are not the only ones being affected. Adults are also affected. Yeah, I love to hear about those things.
So when you're speaking, because it says that you also speak. So when you're speaking to an audience, what do you speak on?
So I'm just starting to dabble into speaking, but honestly, my passion is social media and kids. So I have just started working with a group called, oh my gosh, my brain. Oh, did you lose me again? Hello? Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, there you
Can you hear
go.
me?
Yes. Okay. It
We
just like
get
you went
glitches. We got those
silent. Yeah.
worms in here.
Well, it's because you're too warm over there in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working with a group in St. Albert, Alberta, that their whole focus, it's basically a group of moms right now. And they are working on basically getting schools and parents to sign a pledge to withhold social media from kids for as long as possible. So just my experiences as a teacher and what I'm seeing and how that connects with social media is my main focus.
I think it's something that we need to be talking about, right? Because we're not
Mhm.
talking about it enough. Like,
Mhm.
the
And I
impact from that.
do, I feel like it's starting to swing the other direction though, and it is becoming more of a topic. Whereas I don't think it was maybe even a year or two ago. I don't think it was as talked about as much as it is now. I think the last, this group of kids was kind of a guinea pig. We gave them these smartphones when they're 10, 11 years old, and it was a little bit of an experiment. And now we're seeing like, oh, wait, that was not a great idea. Maybe that wasn't the best thing for kids.
Now you bring up smartphones, and we do have a question here about smartphones. Let me
Mhm.
find it here. I just seen it. Peer pressure has moved from the schoolyard to the smartphone. How has this shift changed the way teens see themselves and others?
Oh, that's like there's so much in that question. So peer pressure, obviously, always going to be a thing. I think with the phone, so we could start off right off the bat here, where there's that pressure to have a phone because
Yeah.
everybody else has a phone. And I think that pressure falls really heavily on parents as well. Well, all the other kids have a phone. Like I'm the only one. And I think that's kind of what starts it out. Then when the kid has the phone, there's a pressure to, be on this app, in this app, in this app. I think now we then have the development of FOMO. So if you don't know what FOMO is, that fear of missing out, which I think kids inherently have anyways. But now if you're not at the party or you're not at the friend's house, you see every single step of that happening. You're watching it happen live on Snapchat or on Instagram or on TikTok. So now you are feeling that pressure, like I'm not there. Why I'm not there? I'm missing out. Like I'm going to be left out. I'm excluded, whichever, which is going to have a serious effect on kids' mental health. Um, then the pressure of constantly being on the phone. So they've done studies where like they've put, kids' phones on their desk, and every time you get a notification, put a tick on the board, and kids are getting hundreds of notifications per hour.
Wow.
Hundreds. So now there's that constant pressure to like check. I got to see who liked this, who liked that. Or you need to put up the video that's going to get the likes, or why didn't they like that? Not many people watch this. How come? So I think there's just this like constant, steady spiral of pressure as soon as a kid is handed that phone.
Well, and that goes into the peer pressure of the likes and loves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Because
100%.
even when you put a post as an adult, even you're like, oh, well, I had 10
100%.
people like it. I haven't.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter how many people like and love it. Like, does your opinion and your post
exactly.
really stand with that? You need that like and love behind you
Mm-hmm.
to
And I
feel like
think
someone.
that's a great example. Is like as adults, we experience that.
Yeah.
So we imagine what that pressure then is as a kid who they don't have the understanding that adults necessarily do. So that pressure is going to be so much more intensified, just like everything is when you're a teenager. Everything is so much more intense
Yeah.
than it is when you're an adult.
Yeah. And social media has scared me. Like some of the apps have scared me because if you're
Mhm.
not getting the likes and the loves and you're not putting the right content out and the algorithm's not there and like it's constantly telling us the negative, right? Like
Exactly.
like you said at the beginning of the show, right? It's the negative, the negative, the negative.
Mhm.
Where do we find the positive
Yes.
in social media? You know?
Well, and I think that's hard for kids to see because now, especially if they're getting those phones at such a developmentally important age, like typically kids are getting their phones at 10, 11 years old. They're just going through puberty. So I think of like the girl perspective on things. They're already struggling with their body image just naturally because their bodies are changing. Now they're seeing these things on their phones, what girls look like, what they're doing, what they're eating. That is going to highlight those issues, which maybe wouldn't have become an issue, but now there's a higher percentage of that happening, a higher likelihood of that becoming a deeper issue. Those ages are so critical in kids' development. If they are spending them staring at a phone, comparing themselves to other people, it's going to affect their mental health. Absolutely.
As a school teacher, we have a question here for cyberbullying. Have you
Mhm.
seen an increase in classrooms of cyberbullying through
Yeah,
phones?
absolutely. I would say we deal with it in the classroom constantly, where we have those issues trickling into the room. Well, so and so was saying this online last night. We had a girl in grade 5 send a message to another girl at 2 o'clock in the morning telling her to go kill herself. Like this is happening all the time, all the time.
Yeah, that's got to be scary.
So chasing through time, actually, you see that cyberbullying piece. It's the problem is when there was bullying again is one of those challenges that it transcends time. So Sarah in 2001 in Chasing Through Time experiences bullying, but when she gets home, she's free. She can let it go for that time that she is at home till the time she goes to school again. Is that still affecting her? Absolutely. However, she gets that break where Emma in 2022, she never experiences that break. And kids today, they don't get that break. They're carrying it in their back pockets. So the bullying is actually doesn't happen as much in school because I feel like kids are hesitant to speak things to each other's faces now. So it's way easier to say that over their screens. And the things that they'll say over their screens, and again, we see this with adults too,
Yeah.
on, in the comment section, if you ever dare go there, adults are the same way. It's so much easier to say this through a screen than it is in real life.
Yeah, because a lot of stuff that's being put onto social media, adults and youths, we
Mhm.
would never say that to someone's face.
Never.
But we're getting really brave and we're just throwing all that hate and shame and anger that is held inside of us towards somebody what we probably don't even know.
Mhm. And I think there's a disconnect between the fact that this is a human being. Those people are not considering like this is a human being sitting at home right now with a family with feelings. They can't see that immediate effect, that repercussion of their words. So it's so much easier to just throw it out there.
Yeah, it's really scary. Like social media scares me with the comments.
Yeah.
Many times when I put a post up, Tara, I'll say, I don't want comments, I don't want likes, I don't want loves. I just want people to pay attention. If they're
Mhm.
actually even reading the post, when someone is
Yeah.
saying, don't comment, don't like, don't, and then all of a sudden, boop, 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 boop.
It's
It's like,
thrown up. Yeah.
have you even really understood, took the time to be silent and read the post, understand that this person is just asking for silence, but still
Mhm.
wants to be heard in a way,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I know living with mental health, sometimes it gets dark, right? So we want to vent. And sometimes we're not ourselves because
Mhm.
it's that chemical imbalance that we don't often talk about, right? We talk about just the diagnosis and just the names of them, but we don't talk about that imbalance in the brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a couple more questions here, and then
Okay.
I want to get into a couple more things with you, and then we're going to wrap it up. But
Okay.
I really enjoyed this conversation, and I
Yeah.
feel that we're getting a lot of good information out there for all of the viewers. If anybody has a comment or question and they'd like to be seen, they can join us in the studio. If you'd like to stay anonymous, you can always send Miss Liz a direct message like some of you have been doing. Miss Liz is big on privacy, so I know a lot of people, they like to keep their privacy and
Mhm.
say, I'm not watching Miss Liz, but I am watching Miss Liz. So
Yeah.
that's okay. I'm good with that. Um, in your views, what is the biggest mental and emotional challenge adolescents face in the age of constant online connection?
I think there's a few, but from what I see, I think a lot of it is that pressure piece again, like what we were discussing before, just that pressure, that constant, you're seeing somebody's highlight reel, and kids don't necessarily understand that that's not what everybody's day-to-day life looks like. So they get this view in their head that, this is what my life should look like. When in reality, like I said, most of the time we're just here. It's
Yeah.
not always up here. So that pressure piece is really huge. And what I am also starting to see a lot of is the just kids being exposed to content that they are not ready to see. That is becoming a really big issue. I know, speaking with young girls, it is normal on a daily basis for them to receive nude photos from men, people that they know. So there are people that they go to school with that is sent to them without consent, and strangers, and that is normal for them, to the point that they don't even think it's a big deal anymore, and that is very terrifying to me.
Yeah, it is
Mhm.
scary, right? That we don't know what's happening to our children out there.
Yeah.
Uh, and you mentioned in your next book, I, you know, I want to get the title right here.
At least I'm trying.
At least I'm trying.
Yeah.
You talk about the Snapchat
Mhm.
and the connections of people not knowing who they're talking to, right? And we have an increase in human trafficking and sex trafficking and stuff like that as well. How do you feel about? Do you teach any of that to the kids in the schools? The
No.
awareness for that?
um we do some, like, we'll have special guests, like speakers, come in to talk about that type of stuff, because that's not in our health curriculum. And as a language arts teacher, for me to just start throwing that out there, probably I would get in trouble by somebody. But at least I'm trying, actually talks about that. It is the main topic is that sex trafficking piece. So um, I think what people, I think, still assume that most of this is happening, on the streets, but it's actually not anymore.
Yeah,
It's so much easier for people to access kids through their phones than it is out in public. So it is becoming more and more common for that to happen through avenues like Snapchat.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So the next question I have for you, Tara, is parents often feel lost in the fast-changing digital world. What are the first steps they can take to reconnect and communicate more openly with their teens?
I am about to enter, my son's turning 10 tomorrow. So I'm going to be entering my own experience with teenagers, because being a teacher of teenagers and a parent of teenagers, I think, is very different. Kids, like, I'm a better, I'm not the bad guy yet. They come to me, they'll talk to me. I'm not the one who has to tell them to, you can't do this, you can't do that, in the same way their parents do. So I'm going to experience this, but I've already started the conversation. And I think that conversation needs to start early, obviously being age appropriate, and it needs to be consistent. So my daughter is 8, and she already knows the dangers of social media and why she is not going to be getting it as early as her friends. We're not going to keep them completely isolated from it, but there are going to be extreme boundaries. And I think, I've talked to parents who are like, well, I don't want to violate their privacy. It's technically, if it's my phone and I'm paying for it, and if they're using it in my home, I don't think there is a place for privacy in this conversation. If we want to protect kids and see what they're seeing and see what they're saying, even the good kids might be saying things that they wouldn't normally say, or who they're associating with, or just what's being sent to them, whatever that is. I think parents need to not be afraid to set those clear boundaries on, what, I get to look at the phone. And if that's a problem, then you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Also, I do not think that phones should be in kids' bedrooms ever, ever. That's when most of the issues are happening. They always say nothing good ever happens after midnight, if you're at a party or whatever.
Right?
Nothing good ever happens after midnight. And I can tell you, nothing good is happening in kids' bedrooms on phone after midnight. And I myself, when I was a teenager, I had a phone in my room, like the full plug-in phone. I was talking on that phone till 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes because I could. And
Yeah.
nobody knew I was quietly talking. So what do we think kids are doing on their phones? They are up all night, some of them. I have kids with screen times of 21 hours on average a day. I would say the typical screen time is 10 to 12 hours a day that kids are on. That would be my average that I have seen.
So when is
That
this
is
child
absurd.
sleeping?
Yeah, there are kids, they're not. And then they come to school, they're dead. They're still trying to go on their device. It's just, we have to make sure kids are safe. And if that makes the kid angry, I don't know, then too bad.
Well,
And I say that
growing up,
again.
I got my parents angry at me, and we didn't have phones back then.
Exactly. Well, and we know our teenagers are going to drink alcohol. We know that that's probably going to happen. Are we going to give them that alcohol? I hope not. And just openly let them drink it all the time whenever they want. I think we need to take that same approach. No, you can have a phone. Okay. However, these are the times you can use it. These are the apps you can have. If I want to check it, I can check it. No, you do not get it from 9 p.m. till 8 a.m., whatever that is. There has to be boundaries. And some
Absolutely.
kids do have those, and those kids usually thrive. They can still have the social media and the tech, but they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and a lot of parents use that social media to take away from taking the responsibility of parenting as
Yes.
well, right?
Yeah. It's
Here's your phone, and
yeah.
do whatever you want, and
Yeah. You're not going to bug me. I
yeah.
saw a term for this actually yesterday, a digital pacifier. Um, yeah. And it's happening. You see 2-year-olds at the grocery store, at a restaurant, getting their hair cut. So now, as a teacher, what we see, because kids from those young ages, as soon as they're feeling any discomfort, here's a device. So now they're in school and they're uncomfortable because it's boring. They don't feel like doing this. It's hard. They're not getting their digital pacifier and they don't know how to be resilient. They don't know how to cope in those circumstances because they've never learned. So that is huge as a teacher.
It's pretty sad that we have to have these sayings, right? Like digital
Mhm.
pacifier, FOMO, you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like we've come to this part in life where social media has really taken over a lot of our
yeah,
lives.
absolutely. And I use teenagers as the example because not only is that what I see, but the phone is literally an integral part of their lives. It is
Yeah,
so central to everything they do, which is why I wanted to include it in books because the phone is for some of them the main character in their own lives. Everything is happening on that phone, so it needs to be talked about.
absolutely. Well, we
Mhm.
have a couple more questions I want to get in before we wrap up. You captured the voice and struggles of teens so authentically. How do you keep your perspective fresh and relatable to younger generations?
Yeah, I think thank you. That's so such a big compliment when I hear that I was able to capture those feelings authentically because that's really what I wanted to do. But I think just the fact that I am with them all the time helps so much. And I'm talking to them all the time and trying to get their experiences and have those conversations so I can really capture what's going on in their lives right now. And that's how I keep it authentic. And my helpers, my group of helpers who give me their input to all of those things.
Well, and it comes off real and raw, right? When you're
Mhm.
authentic, rather than
Yes.
it being booked, programmed, and recorded,
Mhm.
right? And that's why I like doing these live tea times is because the authenticity is there, right? It's not you pre-recorded. Let's edit this. Let's take this out.
Mhm.
It is what it is. If there's a blooper, there's a blooper. If there's something really serious that we talk about, and there's tears and laughter, there's tears and laughter, right?
Mhm.
Let's bring the real stuff to the table.
Yeah.
The next question I have for you is what roles do you believe storytelling, both in books and in real life conversations, plays in guiding teens through those transitional years?
Well, I think books are so pivotal to touching on some of these challenging topics. And in Alberta right now, I don't know if you've been watching the news, but we actually have book bans happening. They say
Yes.
it's not a book
Here in
ban.
Ontario too.
Okay. And um, like we have to go in this year and remove a lot of books that are dealing with, like one book I can think of is Speak, which is about a sexual abuse survivor, but it discusses sex. It does not show sex, but she experiences sexual abuse, and then it goes through her experiences of dealing with that. I think that is so important for kids now. They can find that book and they've experienced the same thing. They can see themselves in that book, and now they can, maybe to open up and talk to someone, see how this character related and what now can I do about it. In Chasing Through Time, I touch on some very, very dark, challenging themes. But if some kid out there is also struggling with their mental health and has been in this dark place, I hope that they can read it and they can see that, like I said before, it might feel so dark right now, but there's hope. There's light at the end. Just like Emma finds hope and she finds light, you can find that too. So stories, I think, are so pivotal for kids to find themselves within. And then conversations, I think we constantly need to be talking to our teenagers. And I know I was talking to somebody the other day, they said the best time with their teenager was in the car, because they're not looking at each other, but they could sit and they could talk. And now when you drive by a car with a teenager, they're typically sitting on their phone. So we're missing these opportunities. And I think a lot of parents think, oh, well, they're teenagers. They're fine. They don't need me anymore. They don't want to talk to me. I actually think they need parents more, and they need those connections more, and they need you to be there more, even if they don't act like they want it. I think they actually do.
I think kids are turning into their phones because they don't know how to reach out to their parents anymore without
Mm-hmm.
being that rejection, right? That
Yes.
well, you want your phone anyway. Like, like I've
Yeah.
heard parents say, like, you don't really want to talk to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
ask your phone, ask
Yeah.
Google. And I'm just like, wow.
No. And I think for teenagers, the most important thing is to never judge them, because as soon as you judge them, they're not going to talk to you again. So, if your kid comes to you and says this happened and you lose your mind, you're done. You lose your mind later. You hold
Right.
on to it. You talk to them calmly, and then you go to your room and you're like, oh my God, what happened? Then you lose your mind, but you cannot judge them. You have to keep that line of communication open and be that safe person for them to talk to.
Are you, Tara, your children are still young, right? 8 and 10,
Yes.
you said. So
Yes. I say all of these things. But like I said, the teenagers are great to me. They are great. They'll come and talk to me, but I'm not their parent. So we'll see. Talk to me in 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
do your children know that you're a writer and
Yeah.
the stories that you do share?
Yep. So they're not allowed to read them yet, but they know, they've listened to podcasts that I've had in the past. My son, especially, he's very interested. And we have conversations about tech almost every day, probably, because especially my 10-year-old, many of his friends have smartphones already, which is absurd to me because he's never anywhere where he's not with an adult or with me. But he wants one, of course, but he knows it's not going to happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, he knows, like, obviously in an age appropriate way, what the focus of my books are.
Well, that's cool that your children know that you're a writer,
Hmm.
because they can come to you and they can say, like, when they become teenagers, they're going to be like,
Yeah.
I can't, Mom, that's not the way the book should have been.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. My son likes to Google me now and show his friends because I'm all over the Google. And I'm like, okay, so he thinks I'm famous. I'm like, I'm not famous, buddy. Not famous. Not yet.
So we have a couple more that I want to get out here. How do you think schools can better equip students with the emotional resilience needed to navigate both in-person and online worlds?
So I think schools can only do so much. I think like what we're doing now, we're seeing schools move away from phones and not having them in the classroom, still doing tech-based stuff, doing tech responsibility. However, when it comes to some of those foundational teachings, I think it has to come more so from home, which I don't like. It's very apparent which kids are having those conversations at home and which aren't. But you come to school, I have potentially 30 kids in a classroom. I cannot teach each one of those kids those types of things. they hopefully are coming into grade 9 at that point. Obviously, I can do my best to give them strategies and help, but it's not going to be the depth of instruction that they could get at that home level.
And looking ahead, what changes would you love to see in how society supports and uplifts adolescents in a digital first era?
I guess I wish there were more just boundaries for kids, and just, I think, as like I said before, that pressure on parents to get the smartphone. I think as a collective, parents need to come together and say, no, we're not doing this anymore. Because if that pressure is off, then we're not going to have, more people handing out the cell phones and handing out, not having the boundaries with the social media and tech and those types of things. So I think as a collective, parents need to start making that choice. No, we're going to hold off. Not saying we're never going to do it, but we're going to hold off until our kids are maybe more ready to handle the repercussions that could happen.
Well, it goes right back to that peer pressure, right? That we talked about earlier, right? The parents are being peer pressured into, oh, well,
100%.
their best friend got a phone for their child. Well, you should get one for your child. And that, you know what I mean? Then they could talk. And, so there's a lot of peer pressure going on between adolescents and parents as well.
Yes,
So
100%. I think that pressure as a parent is going to be a challenge for myself to navigate. And I'm just hoping to find some like-minded people that we can all hold off together.
Absolutely. And if you could give one heartfelt piece of advice to your 15-year-old self in today's world, what would it be and why?
First of all, I would like to preface that by saying I am so grateful that I was not 15 years old in this time, because looking back at 15-year-old me, I would have struggled so much with the online piece, I think. As someone who is very insecure and shy and just unsure of themselves, that would have, I think, been detrimental to my mental health, where I was able to navigate it pretty seamlessly, a few little bumps here and there. But I would hope 15-year-old me would not succumb to that pressure and would just be able to find herself regardless of all of those things that are online. And when we see Sarah in Chasing Through Time, actually, she's loosely based on myself, and just some of her personality traits of being more shy and unsure of herself and insecure and just doesn't feel right in her body. We do see her navigate pretty seamlessly through the challenges, whereas she might not have done so if she was in Emma's time.
And one special moment that has impacted your life or made a difference?
Oh my goodness. One special moment that impacted my life and made a difference. That's a hard question, Miss Liz.
Right? It's one. It's like, there's many. Like, you're a mother, right? So that's impacted your life, made a difference.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I guess I don't know if I can pick just one, but I could say just like as a whole. And I think I'm kind of going back to the teenage thing. I was very blessed to go through those challenging years with such a solid group of people beside me that helped me navigate those challenging times, where I see Sarah and Emma, they never had that blessing. So just having just good people in my life has helped all of the moments be really amazing. Having my kids, and I have my husband, and his support for my writing career is literally incredible. I work full time. I'm a mom. I do all the things, and he gives me that time and space to pursue my dream. And that's been really incredible too.
So what final message would you have for everybody today? And where can people get your books and what's coming next and all that good stuff? And then share that with everybody out there.
Well, yeah, a final message, I guess, would be, I don't know, social media and tech. We know it's such a central part of the world, but I wish we could find, the beauty outside of that again. And especially for kids, I think let's just get outside more, be together more, get off the screens more, put them away, put them in the other room, not just kids, but adults too, because they do what they see. And just, connect with each other. That would be that. And then for my books, mostly on Instagram. So it does not, like, the irony is not lost on me that I'm marketing my books about, anti-social media on social media. So I've been kind of wrapping my head around that piece for the last year or so. But I do most of my information on Instagram, and then that transfers over to my Facebook as well. And my handle is at Tara Hodgson Author. And yeah, on my website, which you have posted there, I have information about At Least I'm Trying. But on my Instagram and Facebook, I'm also updating people on my third manuscript. So I'm almost done, actually, my third book, just the rough draft. But yeah, I post everything there.
Well, awesome. And it was a pleasure having you on Tea Time tonight and getting all this incredible information out there for everyone. If anybody would like to know more, you can check out her website at www.tarahodgins.ca. And for anybody who's listening on the audio, all of that will be in the show notes. So I really want to thank you, Tara, for joining me tonight and
Thank
sharing
you.
your tea with everybody out there. We will be back Thursday at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. with 2 new stories, 2 new books, and 2 new incredible authors out there as well. So until then, I will wish you guys all a good night. Stay true to yourselves. Keep spilling your tea, and we'll make a difference one cup of tea at a time. Blessing.
See you.